say hi to the moo mic. That's gonna help today. I really feel like in this angle I look very small, but you know, that's just reality. Now I wanted to sit down and talk about a topic that has been on my mind yesterday. I was planning on making a video yesterday of me painting the stairs, everything just being jolly, funny, blah, 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 DIY. But then I woke up and it was actually the start of a bit of a heavy day. Yesterday I had a dream. It was this kind of dream that, you know, it's already the morning and you just fall back asleep again. You're sort of in between dreams and reality. The morning naps and the morning dreams are always a bit confusing. They feel very real. And I had this dream that I was in a room. There was this birthday going on. So there were like family members and everyone was eating a piece of cake and blah, blah, blah. I was walking to another room and then I saw all these photo albums that were just spread out. And I was, you know, going through them and I was looking at these pictures. Then some of my family members came in and they were also going through these photo albums and they had a hard time looking at these photos. So, you know, they were emotional. So I wanted to kind of support them. I like vividly remember that I was patting someone's back. And after a while, I walked back to where the birthday was and I see my granddad and he's sitting there. And almost everyone was already leaving, but he was like the only person that was still there and he was also ready to leave. So I grabbed him and I grabbed him by the arm. And bear in mind, my grandfather has now died for, I think 6 years ago. So I just grabbed his arm and I said, hey, come, we're gonna go to the other room and I'm gonna show you some pictures. Everyone is looking at the pictures. And wait, they are like working in the hallway. So all of a sudden I hear machine. I said to him like, hey, there are these photos, like come and look at the pictures with me. So I walked him to that spot and he was like, no, I have to go. And there was this picture of my grandma and he was putting a necklace or a bracelet or something. He was putting over this picture of her. He said like, a life without her is not worth living for me. Like I need to go. And I just remember so vividly that I was holding on to his vest. I can literally remember the feeling of his vest in my hands, like the warm vest that he was wearing was like blue with white. And I can literally feel the structure in my memory, in my hands, super, super weird. It was a very realistic dream. After that, he said, you know, I need to go. And everything felt a bit sad. And then he went away. I woke up and I just started crying very, very intensely. Like I literally last week I was saying to my boyfriend, like I haven't cried for a very long time. Like I can't remember the last time that I cried. In the past, crying definitely was a way for me to process information and emotions. So for me, it was kind of out of character that I didn't cry for such a long time already. And I kind of realized that I was thinking about my grandma, my grandfather, and how they were such a big part of my life for such a long time. And even though they died like 6 years ago, I think that I never really truly processed the fact that they are not here anymore. There are multiple reasons for that I want to get into. Like yesterday when I was thinking about the topic, I realized that grief in your 20s is already like such a weird thing. So much happened in my life for the last 10 years that influenced the fact that I apparently still was grieving someone. So my grandma, she had Alzheimer's. That was actually a really, really sad time. It was a really difficult time for my granddad, but also for my parents, because just a lot going on in her brain. Sometimes she would snap out of the Alzheimer's and she would realize what was going on, and that would make her very, very sad. And Alzheimer's is such a weird thing, but it's so scary. I think that the way that it left the rest of the family behind, especially because we know it can be genetic in that side of the family, we are definitely scared that when we get older, we might get Alzheimer's, or that we would experience what she experienced. And I think that Alzheimer's is so weird because it has different effects on different people. So someone can have Alzheimer's and can be just very like jolly, like a happy 5-year-old, like a very happy child. The thing with my grandma was that she really wanted to escape the house that she was living in for years and years and years now with my granddad. And she wanted to go back to the house where she actually grew up. She wanted to go back to her parents. So there was this I think also this fear, but also this misunderstanding of where she was now for the last, 50 years of her life, maybe even more. She really wanted to go back to where she was when she was a child. Almost on a daily basis, she would like grab her stuff, grab some underwear, grab some clothing. She would make a little bag and she would just go outside. And she would walk to the house that she actually grew up in. And then my parents or my granddad, at some point, they just needed to accept that this was happening because she was getting very upset when she wasn't allowed to leave. Heartbreaking for my granddad, of course, because they have loved and cared for each other for so many years. There was so much true love. They really showed me how a very healthy, long marriage looks like if you stick together and you love each other for, until you die. Then that's what it looks like. Like that's a very beautiful thing that you can have with someone unconditionally. Like it was really a beautiful love that they had. And all of a sudden, this person that my granddad was, building his life with for the last 60 years of his life, she wasn't there anymore. And sometimes like a glimpse of her would be back, but then a lot of the times it wouldn't be her anymore because, of course, like parts of your brain get really damaged. At some point, they just had to let her go and just let her walk. And when she was walking, my granddad would give her like a GPS, so we would actually be able to find her if she would get lost. But a lot of the times, like my parents would get a call like, hey, she is here and there. Is she okay? And then my mother would go there, or my father, and they would bring her home and maybe walk with her. They would go to her old house, or at least like the area where she grew up, explain to her like, yeah, they're not here anymore. They're not here. They're not home. And then just bring her home again. And it was a very tedious, very sad cycle. My grandma, she was very special to me. She was a very important person in my life. She was a very warm person, and people always said how much I looked like her when she was younger. And I feel like there was just this immense connection that I had with her. And I can still feel like her warm hugs when I think about it. Probably because of the Alzheimer's, she didn't really realize what was going on in her body. Maybe pain that she would feel normally, maybe she wasn't able to feel that anymore. Then all of a sudden she had something in her lungs. And in the day that they found out that she had something in her lungs, in that same day she died. Something that I realized yesterday that I also never really processed is that this person that has been in my life very actively for 18 years and has been such a big role in my life for 18 years, I didn't get to say goodbye to her because when I got to the hospital, she was already gone. It was just done. Her life wasn't the quality of life that she hoped to still have probably at that age. Alzheimer's, it's always... that it's not going to get better. There are things that kind of can slow it down. At the time, at least, it didn't get better. I know that there are like very big researchers now tackling this part, and also results of Alzheimer's can be turned around. But I think that at the time that really wasn't the case, or maybe it was already that far developed that it wasn't able to turn back. Even though it's very sad, it was also quite beautiful that, pain was spared by the fact that she died. This process was already going on for multiple years. So it was also a tiring process for everyone to see, that she was fading away like that mentally. My granddad was left by himself. When I think about it, it just makes me sad because my granddad was also such a sweet and warm and smart person. My grandma was his life, and that he was just by himself for a while. It's sad to think about that. And I think that this is the part where I just realized that I never truly process this. Even though it's, an older person and you know that in your lifetime, you're gonna say goodbye to them at some point. The realization just came to me that it wasn't something that I truly processed. It's a part of life. People get old, they maybe get sick, and then they die. That's how I thought about it for the last 10 years. Like, this is just what happened. I think that yesterday when I had the dream, I also realized no, but even though they are old and even though they get sick and even though, it happens to everyone, eventually we die, and that is also fair, it can still be something that we need to process because some people have actually been a big part of our life whilst we grow up. All of a sudden, they're not there anymore. And maybe you want to share certain things with them that you now cannot share with them anymore. And that is also valid. Like that feeling and missing these people is also a valid thing. Yesterday, and also in the last couple of years, I realized that there's also a part of me that feels very guilty. I wasn't there all the time, and why I wasn't there as much, I will get into that in a second as well. But it was just really a realization that even though it is something that we can accept, that some people get old and they get sick and they die, that doesn't mean that we don't have the right to feel sad about that. There are always things that are worse, and there are always things that are not as bad. And I think that I was putting everything a lot on a scale because of other things that happened. And I was just thinking yeah, but this is just life. So on the scale of what is sad and what is acceptable in life, this is definitely more acceptable than sad. Now I'm starting to get to the point where I'm actually feeling, no, but it can actually be both. My granddad, he was by himself. And then at some point they found out that he had a tumor in his face, in his jaw. So he needed to get treatment and he also needed to get a surgery. That was actually when everything just started to kind of go down. He moved places. I don't think he had lived there for a very long time. In all fairness, this phase, when I think about these memories, it also feels so vague. Like I've got very short and vague memories of this period, but it's not like I have a very clear story of, then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Like for me, it feels kind of vague, and I feel because I was mentally maybe not there, it makes it now a bit difficult to really put everything in the right place. But I know that he moved houses, and then, when people that maybe are also in a way influenced mentally by the sickness that they have, and also when they reach a certain age, if you move them to a different location, a new living location, especially like my grandparents, they had lived in that same house almost their entire life. Like when they got together, they moved there. Moving then someone from a place that is so known to them and so safe to them, I think that was really the point when he started to also go down mentally. He was forgetting a lot and he was hallucinating. I think it also had to do with the fact that he had a tumor in his mouth, because your mouth, things that can go on in your mouth. I found out recently also, if you, for example, have an infection in your mouth, it can influence your brain. I think for him as well, it was just probably because that tumor was there. I think it was influencing his brain also negatively. I don't even know how long this period was. I know that in that same year, both my grandfathers were sick and they were both dying. And my parents were just so busy with putting all their love and all their energy. They would go to my grandfather's on a daily basis. If they wouldn't go to the one, then they would go to the other. I know that it was a lot. It was a lot for them to process and to deal with. And I think that that's also where a big part of guilt comes in for my side. I know that I shouldn't feel guilty about it, and I'm working through that, but it's also something that you can say one thing, but feeling it is actually another. I know how much they gave to fix this situation. I was talking with a friend yesterday about this, and she also said in generational trauma and also generational love and loyalty and responsibility that you have towards different generations, She said, really did nothing wrong. You just also need to see that, once the time is there and you can give back what they also did for their parents, then, you would do that. And I know for a fact that that's true. In this time, I was 18 when my grandma died. And then I think this went on until I was 21. That was this period of time that a lot, it was very hectic, a lot happened. The thing that makes this entire situation very complex. So there was a girl in my life that I cared for deeply and that I truly loved. And she got diagnosed with cancer when she was 16 years old. And that happened when I was 19 years old. She was sick for, I think, 1.5 years. And just when she turned 18, she died from that cancer. That was just my whole focus, my whole, every bit of energy that I had at the time, every bit of love and care that I had to give, it was going into that situation. She was the sister of my boyfriend at the time. This is also something that I'm trying to navigate mentally, but I also need to kind of have compassion for the fact that at the time, that was also my family. I was really trying to make a decision between who am I gonna give the most attention? Am I gonna give all my love and my attention to this girl that shouldn't be sick and shouldn't die? Should I give it to my granddads that have lived a beautiful life, that had so much love and so much care, but that are now sick and that are also dying? Or should I give my attention to school? That was also a very big part of my life at the time, but I wasn't able to give my energy there. So school was going, not so great. I was not doing great at the study that I was following. Should I give my attention to my parents that are also struggling with trying to care for their fathers that are now dying? It really felt like I needed to just rip myself into 10 different pieces to divide the attention that I have inside of me into 10 different sections. And I just wasn't able to do that. That is still something that is now 8 years ago, I think, 7. Everything that happened, it was now 7, 8, 9 years ago. It is something that has really gone to the back of my mind in the last couple of years. Because life happened, you needed to move on when everyone died, because that was the year of 2019. Also a very beautiful year, but also very sad. My boyfriend at the time, he also had 2 grandfathers die in the same year. So we had 5 people that died in that year, and we were all basically at the front row of the funeral. You just become numb. I think that is also the reason why yesterday I'm starting to have these emotions and these dreams about people that have left my life in a time that I wasn't able to split my mind into 10 different pieces. Mentally, I remember that I was at these funerals. I wasn't mentally there. I was there physically, but I wasn't able to cry. I wasn't able to show emotion because, again, if we talk about the scale of what is sad and what is acceptable, the death of, the 18-year-old girl was extremely sad and extremely unacceptable. It was so extremely different than anything that I've ever experienced in my life. And hopefully I never have to experience something like this ever again in my life. In a way, I also wanted to plan how I processed feelings. I would almost grab an agenda and I would write down in the agenda, okay, today we're gonna mourn this person. Today we're gonna mourn this person. But that's not something that you can plan like that. It doesn't work like that. It just happens to you or it doesn't. So after all these people that were close to us died, we just thought, okay, now we're gonna take it easy. I remember that we went on holiday also with my ex-boyfriend and his parents. So we all went together because we needed some time to log off. And I remember that it was really a beautiful holiday. We went to the mountains, we had amazing walks, we saw amazing places in Italy, and it was truly like a beautiful holiday. But it was also weird because you just went through one of the most tough things that you can ever go through. Like, we were literally at her deathbed for a week. And then after that, she was gone. And now you have a funeral, and then you go on this holiday, and you think like, oh, we're going to take this holiday also to mourn and also to kind of log off. But that's just not something that you can mentally plan like that. And nonetheless, I'm very happy that we were able to do this. But all in all, it was just very challenging. After that, you want to move on with your life. And I think one of the most challenging things of navigating grief in your 20s is also the fact that you are a person in your 20s. So you want to do all the things that your friends are doing. You want to go to parties. You want to make experiences. You want to live carelessly. You want to do all the things that all the people around you are doing. You want to travel maybe, or you want to go to festivals. And because I did all of this, that's the thing. Like, I did all of these things. I made all of these decisions, going to parties, going out, going to do fun things with my friends. And I'm happy that I did, because, sitting just at home waiting for you to cry about things, that's also not working. But I do feel like I was in this mode where I was also trying to flee reality, because what I was already saying, like, my studies were not going very well. I was really struggling. And this was also the first time that I ever experienced that something that had to do with school wasn't going very well. I think that in the past, when I was in primary school, I was in high school, I think everything went quite easily. Like, school wasn't it was quite an amusing thing for me to also experience that something like education can be very difficult and also draining you completely, because you cannot put any energy into it, and all the energy that you put into it, you don't get back. That was also an interesting thing to navigate. But now looking back at it, I also realized that it definitely had to do with everything that was going on and the priorities that I had at the time. They were just different. Next to the fact that, you have to deal with the fact that multiple people around you are sick and they are dying, you also want to act like a normal person in their 20s. I think that's when survival mode started to kick in. I think that was when I was 19 years old. I think that really the survival mode started to kick in when I'm looking back at it, because we just needed to move on. Like, reality is there. At some point, I needed to make money. I had a rent that I needed to pay. I had groceries that I needed to pay. My finances were completely, like, they were embarrassing. The way that I was handling my budgets and stuff, like, there were no budgets to handle. It was embarrassing. I guess that's also part of being, in your 20s. And I think that everything just kind of negatively influenced each other. And I also feel like we needed to grow up very quickly, like these very real themes that were all of a sudden appearing, like death and that your health shouldn't be something that you take for granted, even if you're very young. These things are now such a big part of my life. How are we going to just ignore that by partying and stuff? Like, that's not a very realistic thing. So after, this all happened, we also moved into another interesting phase of life, and that was the coronavirus period. The first period of the corona epidemic was great for me, how sad that might sound, but I wasn't able to go to any parties. I wasn't able to go to any festivals. The only thing that I was able to do is stay inside and fix my study. So, like, a button in my head just turned and I just went for it. And I fixed so many things that I needed to do for my study, because there was actually just nothing else to do. So I think in that sense, it saved me that I was able to get my diploma in the end. But after, I think, the first half year to a year, we started to, get very, very impatient. I think me and my friends, we really wanted to see each other and we wanted to have fun with each other. We spend a lot of time with this friend group, and I'm very happy because when I look back at those moments, I do feel a sense of happiness, and I do feel a sense of like we were there for each other and we were pulling each other through. But at the same time, it is also just a weird thing that you just need to go through together. Like this also really feels like a very vague movie, like a very vague memory from the past. I just remember like flashes of certain situations. Like I don't even know anymore if it was half a year, if it was a year, if it was 2 years, if it was more than that. I have no recollection of time when I think back at those moments. You have your friends and you go through this together, but at the same time, it was also just this extra thing on top of everything that we needed to process, and that we weren't fully, truly processing because, we also needed to work. I needed to finish that study that was just really frustrating me, and that was not a great match with who I am as a person. Like the entire study was just not for me. But it's now in the past. It's fine that it happened. I'm happy that I finished it. It was taking so much from me to do that. I was dealing with symptoms of depression. I don't think that I was ever truly in a depression, but there were definitely symptoms. I was always able to pull myself still out of it, but there were definitely dark days. When that was done, we needed to continue. We needed to move on. I still needed to work. I needed to earn money. I needed to pay my rent. I needed to be able to also find a full-time job after my studies were done. And when I found a full-time job, that brought an entire wave of mental things to deal with, burnout symptoms. There were some toxic traits about the first full-time job environment that I was in that were very heavily influencing me, that were also numbing me, that the next time around I wasn't even like feeling or noticing these things anymore that were happening. So there was just a lot. And now we are in 2026, and yesterday I woke up crying. It just really made me think. I went on a big walk yesterday. I never truly sat down for a longer period of time and truly thought about the situations and the grief, and that it's okay to, even though, on the scale of acceptability and sadness, it is still something that is maybe more acceptable than it is sad. At the end, these are still people that were a big part of your life and that you now need to miss. And it is okay to also give time to that and also to acknowledge that. And I think I had a very hard time with acknowledging this. I feel like it's always very important to, stay strong and see the positive side. I had to do this personality test once when I was working. And the biggest characteristic that was popping up was optimism. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy with that. But that doesn't mean that every day needs to be positive or optimistic. If I think about this right now, just the fact that you're sad about something or that you need to process something doesn't mean that that's a negative thing. It's still a positive thing. Like yesterday, I also felt like it was a sense of relief. So in that sense, I'm actually very happy and optimistic about the fact that I kind of had a mental breakdown yesterday. Again, wanted to grab the momentum and then really focus on this sadness, because I thought, okay, it needs to come out of me. I need to be sad right now, apparently. So just really focus, be sad. But that's, again, like something that you cannot plan. Maybe one day you wake up again and you have a dream and you need to cry again, and then just let it happen. I think the fact that it's happening right now is to do with the fact that this is the first time in a long time that I don't really have a worry. I don't really have something that I am worried about or that I feel stressed about, or that I need to put my energy into something that I don't want to put my energy into. I've been on that survival mode until I quit my job, and that was now a couple of weeks back. And now for the first time, I'm actually like, I'm not worried about money, because I think, okay, money, we're going to make it work. It's going to be fine. We're going to be okay. I'm not worried about family members. Everyone is healthy. Everyone is happy. I'm not worried about my relationship. Like, we're doing great. My friends are amazing. I'm so incredibly grateful for the friends that I have and the way that I can talk with them. And also, yesterday I sent this voice memo to one of my friends, and she almost immediately sent a voice memo back just with the sweetest words, acknowledging my feelings and also listening to me, and also, thinking, hey, you don't have to be so harsh on yourself, and you really, it's fine that you're experiencing this, and this is also a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful for those conversations that I have with my friends. And another big thing, for the first time in 8 years, I do not have to move house. For, I think in 7 years time, I moved 8 times. I literally had to move all my stuff in and out of a different house for 8 times in 7 years. I think that was a very big part of the fact that I wasn't really truly able to ever get out of that survival mode, because I feel like there has always been something inside of me that kind of felt like, you need to be ready to pack your bags and leave. Don't get too attached to a house. Don't get too attached to certain stuff. Don't get, why would you ever spend too much money on decorations? Because you will leave eventually. Now I'm actually at a point where now since November, I've been living here and I don't know when we're going to move. Maybe it will be after 5 years or maybe even longer than that. And I'm almost feeling like I'm not allowed to feel that. Like, there's always something inside of me that feels like, oh, but something can happen. There's always something that can happen. And then you need to move again. And I think that is also a very big part of why now, for the first time, I'm kind of starting to feel like I am getting out of this survival mode. And I'm also starting to feel like I can really get back to the things that I needed to process that happened 10 years ago, 6 years ago. I feel like there is now finally space to feel. My brain has always been very active, so it's not like I never thought about these things. I very, very, very much thought about these things that happened. Like, I really tried to process it by analyzing things. But that is also not something that you can force or that you can do like that. I think it's good to sometimes think about certain things, but you can also get lost in your thought process, and you can forget that, the only thing that we have is here and is now, and you cannot keep living in your head forever. I try to also force myself into feeling certain things by thinking about certain things, but I wasn't able to do that. And now my body actually feels like, okay, you're safe. Now you can feel again, and you don't have to leave. You can actually breathe. Yesterday I also felt very strongly that now I started with this YouTube channel and also put some TikToks online and stuff. I really started to feel like, okay, maybe this is a topic that I want to sit down and talk about. Maybe I'm not even going to post this video. I'm not even sure yet. Maybe I'm just going to, because I filmed it, I'm just going to watch it back, and that would be therapy on its own. That could be the case. Or I can, watch it back and actually put it online, and maybe someone sees this and recognizes some of the things, and maybe not. And maybe it's just, then out there for whoever. Last couple of days, I've also really been thinking, like, what is the direction that I want to go into with these videos? I really enjoy the process of just filming and talking and just doing things that are happening in my day-to-day life. And I think that this is just as much as the fact that I need to paint the stairs. I think that processing these thoughts and having these emotions are also a part of my life. I'm still not really sure which direction I should go into, but I do think that this is something that feels good, at least for now. I also know that I very much enjoy these types of videos because it always makes me think, and it always makes me feel, and my emotions feel seen. So I think that can be a good thing. I don't know. I truly believe that there's some sort of divine intervention, and that your gut feeling is there for a reason, because it's trying to lead you in some direction that you need to go into. And sometimes you just don't really know why. So this is really something that I don't know why, but my gut feeling is very strong about this, that I needed to sit down and film this, and I really wanted to do this. And this is feeling very good whilst I'm doing it. But I don't know why yet. My gut feeling is telling me that I need to continue with this path. What I'm saying, I really truly believe that there is some sort of divine intervention when it comes to your path, but we're not able to understand why it's there. I just know that this is something that feels good for now. So I just want to keep focusing on that and focusing on what feels good. I really truly hope that, you know, if there are people that watch this, they're also navigating grief, trying to find some reasoning behind the emotions that they have. Just know that you're not alone, and sometimes you can just feel a sense of sadness, and you don't always have to understand why you're feeling that or why now. Just know that it is okay and it can be there. And even though, you know, there are always things that are heavier, and there are always people that go through more stuff or heavier stuff, that doesn't mean that the feelings that you experience are not valid or shouldn't be experienced. Just know that everyone is allowed to feel certain things based on the certain experiences that they are going through in their life. I'm saying this because this is actually something that I am sometimes struggling with. I think I'm just gonna leave it like this. I'm just gonna stop talking now, and I'm gonna watch the footage back and see if I'm gonna do anything with it, or if I'm just gonna leave it for now just with myself, and that's also fine. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you want, please like and subscribe. Feels a bit weird to say after this entire talk about grief, but yeah, why not? Just like and subscribe, and maybe I can make more of these videos if people like this. And if not, then I at least enjoyed it. Okay, bye.